counting?
Because we have to. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead.
Throw you off.
I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what probably my favorite movie going experience living in a red state is.
Oh, okay.
And also living in the Bible Belt.
All right.
So, whenever the previews are going, and you see a movie directed by Michael Moore in the previews, just living in a red state and just feeling the hatred for liberals and leftist propaganda just steaming in the audience, you're just like, ooh. And then anytime you watch a movie with an interracial couple, just feeling all like the I guess shut down racist people, just like their blood just slightly boiling. Like in the movie we saw, there's a scene where main character kisses a black chick, and like there was so much tension from the old people that I could just feel it, and I was like, I love living in the South sometimes. It's a place that I don't think has gotten used to seeing that yet.
I mean, they should have by now.
They should have, but it's like the ancient people, you know, the people that are like 10 years older than God. Those type of people.
Well, welcome everybody to the show.
Sorry, it's been a while since we uploaded.
Well, podcast.
We're all still trying to get our work schedules sorted out.
Yeah.
And we just haven't had time to go watch movies. Mm-hmm. But we're starting to get time again. So we're going to start doing more and more in these.
Yay!
In case you, for some odd reason, forgot us, I'm Dale. And I'm joined by...
I'm Dolan.
Yeah. And if the thumbnail or the background, because I'm too lazy to edit visuals or get a camera, didn't give it away, we went and watched White Boy Rick.
Woo!
I know that there were literally hundreds of other options, like Predator or The Nun.
I'm not going to go see the new Predator. It looks awful.
Well, we can do a review of the new Predator later.
Terrible.
Well, if we decided not to go watch a movie because they look terrible, we shouldn't have really went and watched Rampage, but we did.
Or Breaking In.
Yeah, but we had to watch something. And I've never really seen anything from the Conjuring series, so I think I'd be lost on The Nun.
No. It's actually like a prequel to all the movies.
Oh, well, I still don't care. If horror's your thing, I guess go watch it. But we're not reviewing The Nun.
We're reviewing The White Boy.
We're reviewing White Boy Rick. The setting for this movie is 1984 Detroit, where I guess everyone, even your grandmother, had a gun.
And pedo stashes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. I was just uncomfortable looking at everyone's mustaches and their mullets.
Every time there was a scene with Matthew McConaughey
and his greasy mullet
and the actor that played White Boy Rick, they both had the same pedo stash.
They did, and they refused to shave it. What is the actor who played White Boy Rick?
His name is
it Richie Merritt? That's what I was thinking too. He's the only one on Wikipedia that like doesn't have a page for him. So that tells you how new he
does,
is.
and he's got that stinking pedo stash.
He looks like if
he looks like the guy
Finn
from
Wolfhard went and did drugs. Really and truly.
So, yeah, White Boy Rick is 1984. The character that Richie Merritt plays is the character known as White Boy Rick. Which, by the way, this is based on a true story.
You'll be hearing some background noise. Our ninja of a cat is able to crawl under the door.
Yeah.
And she's in here now, and she's an attention harlot.
It's how do you say it? It's Wershie, I think is how you say their last name. Rick. It's Rick Wershie. Wershie. Is how I think they pronounced it in the movie.
Or Wershie or something. Wersh.
It looks like Wersh, but they pronounced it as Wershie in the movie. So I don't know. But
it's a stupid name, irregardless.
White Boy Rick, and then his father is played by Matthew McConaughey. They're both named Rick, technically. The whole starting premise is the fact that Matthew McConaughey's character sells guns illegally.
No, he sells them legally.
But he does it in a fashion that is not so.
It would not be. It would be legal nowadays.
Yeah, because he doesn't do any kind of background checks. He just gives them guns.
He has a license, and
as shown in the movie, at some point he's getting them. Selling guns that he has already clearly shown that are not AKs. He sells them as AKs, and he makes suppressors for them. Which, for a for a movie that's supposed to be grounded in reality because it's based on a true story, I was very disappointed in the way they portrayed suppressors, because that is the exact reason most people don't know what suppressors actually do. They don't sound like that at all. It's more like a really loud cough. What it sounds like. It's not
like an actual silencer. Yeah. It's not like a.
Yeah, video games and most movies make silencers seem like they literally make guns make no sound, but that's not how it actually works. They are still very loud, especially something that's supposed to be a fully automatic weapon. It's still going to be really loud when you shoot, but. Like, that's the whole starting premise, which you pointed this out before we recorded. I was actually very kind of disappointed, like. The whole selling guns thing kind of immediately took a back seat because it went from White Boy Rick sells some guns to White Boy Rick selling cocaine. Like, it was just a few scenes later, and Rick is, instead of helping his father sell guns, he's working with the FBI and selling drugs.
And I think what I interpreted from this movie is the movie is less of seeing the corruption of what money will do to you and what greed will do, how much money drugs can make you, and more of the corruption within the federal justice system, where they can do these things to try and arrest real bad criminals, and then not have to cover their bases by just letting a kid take the fault.
Yeah, because it's pretty early. It's pretty early on in the movie when it reveals. Obviously, they live in Chicago, I believe, or Detroit. They live in Detroit. It's really in a really rundown neighborhood. His sister is a druggie and runs off with her boyfriend. Which it's very. I do have to point this out. Watching the movie with all the tension right now with like race and stuff in our country, I was actually surprised that didn't seem to be much of the motivation behind the movie, and that made me feel good because it was like, okay, that wasn't where they were taking the story. They weren't worried about the fact that look, there's blacks and whites living together.
It was White Boy Rick wanting to be a thug and a gangster just as much as the thugs and the gangsters.
Yeah, he was trying to fit in just like anyone else, and it led him down a bad road, which they definitely made the movie because you watch White Boy Rick through his whole little journey of becoming a drug lord, where
like a kingpin type of character.
Yeah, because he goes from just being a kid who's helping sell drugs for the FBI, and then he gets betrayed by the gangsters. The gangsters shoot him, and then the FBI won't work with him anymore because now he's a liability. To then he just decides, well, I'm gonna just keep selling drugs. And they definitely try to paint it out like he's the good guy in the story. And I went and saw it with my fiance, and we both were talking about it afterwards, and it was like, we get that like they were trying to show like he like as if he had values in areas such as wanting to take care of his sister and his dad and his family, but he was willing to cross the line to do those things.
And it's more of the idea of like, I know you're doing something bad, but I can also get it too. You're willing to do anything you can to take care of the people you love, and even if you have to do something bad to do it, some of us just aren't willing to do that. I know I wouldn't be able to do that, but then again, I also don't live in the circumstances that Rick lived in.
Yeah, and
I don't have to make those choices.
yeah, and they definitely kind of, I don't want to say like shove that on you, but they make it very clear that it's like, what other choice did he have? You know, was he gonna just live in poverty for the rest of his life? Well, most people do. So you have to look at it as, do you still excuse the crimes that he committed just because he was trying to help those he thought needed it?
So the director of this movie was Jan de Mange. I think I'm saying that right. Some of their works are Secret Diary of a Call Girl.
I don't know what that is.
Dead Set.
Never heard of
Top Boy. Those are television shows.
Oh, okay.
And then only 2 films, 71 in 2014 and White Boy Rick.
Okay. I've never heard anything that they've done before this.
I think... and the screenplay was done by Andy Weiss, Logan Miller, and Noah Miller.
Okay.
Producers were John Lesher, Julie Yorn, Darren Aronofsky, and Scott Franklin. Are you hungry, buddy?
No.
Oh. Music was by Max Richter, I believe. Yeah, Richter. Trying to see, that name is kind of familiar. Let me see. What has he done? Sorry, we're
you're fine.
Messing up our.
Everyone's good.
Anyway,
the flow.
Look, we've already discussed. It's the runtime is 116 minutes. That's almost 2 hours.
2 hour long. Didn't expect that.
The budget was $29 million.
Yeah.
Not doing so well in the box office right now. It only made $8.9 million so far.
IMDb has it listed as a 6.9 out of 10. So certainly not everyone's favorite movie of the year, and I definitely wouldn't say it was my favorite either. But I think for what it was, it did good. It did good at being a docudrama. You know, it did good as a. What would I compare it to? Other crime, like movies.
What I would kind of compare it to, it's not quite as Die Hard type of thing, but you remember that movie with The Rock, where his son was caught with a package of drugs, and in order to lessen his son's sentence, he decided to work inside a drug cartel?
No.
That was...
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name of it. I feel like I saw it advertised, but I don't remember.
I'd have to look it up, but it just kind of reminded me of that.
Here, I guess let's name the cast. Or whatever.
Yeah, let's go ahead. You've got the cast.
Top build cast, starting from the top. Obviously, is Matthew McConaughey as
his greasy mullet.
Well, you know why he looks that way, don't you? He's a naturalist. Yeah, so he never bathes except for like when he gets in a swimming pool or something. Like that's the only time he's ever in contact with water. Hold on, I gotta sneeze.
Oh crap! Now that I said I have to sneeze, I don't. That's how that works. Going
down from him is Richie Merritt, who plays White Boy Rick. Belle Powley, who played Dawn Wershey. So the scene where they go and get the daughter or sister from the drug house and bring her back so she can go like full. They put her just cold turkey to get the drugs out of her system.
That is not safe at all.
It's one of the most effective ways, but it's not safe. And like the entire time, like they're not in there trying to help her. They just lock her in her room while she goes through this, which I guess is one way to handle it. But you didn't take away any of the furniture. You're giving her like plateware and stuff, which she breaks, which she could have easily used as weapons. Like people like that will do some crazy stuff, and like obviously, again, this is all based on a true story. We're seeing someone's rendition of what they think possibly happened, based on just word of mouth and people telling them.
Making a murderer. This is kind of a making a murderer type of thing.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what it's kind of like.
With what is it? Stephen Avery. Yeah. If you've seen the entire documentary, this is basically the premise. Except Ricky did not kill anyone.
All right. The next person listed is Jennifer Jason Leigh, or Leigh. I don't know how to say her last name.
Was she the FBI lady?
She's the FBI, one of the FBI agents, the female FBI agent. There's Brian Tyree Henry, who plays Officer Jackson, I think, the black cop that is with the FBI. Rory Cochran, who was like the only other actor I really knew by face. He's the other FBI agent. And then who else does
I knew him too, but I didn't know where I knew him from.
Yeah, I've seen his face. Hold on, we can look real quick. The next person is R.J. Seiler, who plays Boo. One of the... It's like White Boy Rick's like best friend, and also he's also a member of the gang and stuff. That guy Rory Cochran is in Argo, which I didn't like.
Was that movie that tried to make Jimmy Carter look competent?
Yeah, I think so. And then there's a lot of these that I don't really know. He was in Oculus. You probably haven't seen that, but
no,
he was in that. He used to be in 24 and CSI Miami.
Who did he play in 24?
Greg Seaton.
Oh, I remember Greg.
Yeah, so he played. It seems like he's mostly in television and stuff. The next guy is Jonathan Majors, who plays Johnny, who's the leader of the gang. Are they a gang?
Yeah, more of a drug cartel.
I was like, they never seem like a gang, because the only time I saw something that I would consider a gang-related crime is when they do the drive-by shooting. Of the other guy's house. Like, that's the only time I saw something that seemed very gangish. After them is a lot of actors and actresses that I don't know. Eddie Marson, I don't know who he is. Art Derrick is the character he played. I think that's the guy that White Boy Rick went to start his own, whenever he started doing his own thing.
Art Derrick, that was the guy that Johnny bashed the head of in that club.
No, because that guy was black. This guy's white.
Oh. Who was that guy then?
That's what I'm saying. This guy, the Eddie Marson, I believe this is the guy that White Boy Rick goes to when he starts his own drug crime. Like,
Momo's trying to climb up, but she's going the hard way.
The rest of these are like the grandparents, Bruce Dern and Piper Laurie, both people I've never heard of. Raekwon, and I'm sorry if I butcher these names, Raekwon Haynes, who plays Nug, which is the guy that actually shoots White Boy Rick in that scene. That's Nug.
Spoiler alert.
I love that name, Nug. How do you get a name like that?
Your parents hate you. That's the first part.
I mean, that's not his actual. His actual name is Edwin something, but his Nug is his
How is
nickname.
that better? How is that better? I would rather be called Nug than Edwin.
Ishmael Ali plays as Freaky Steve. James Howard is Chief of Homicide, and then that's where it kind of cuts off.
Who names their child Chief?
And then Homicide.
Yeah, Homicide's a weird last name. Could you imagine putting that on?
Last names originally are supposed to be go with things that you used to be, or the professions. So theirs is Homicide.
You've got Smith, and then you've got Fisher. I would hate to figure out how you got the name Dickinson. But anyway, let's continue. You just got that?
No, I got it. I was just... So, again, this movie is supposed to be based on a true story. It all happened. Obviously, some sections of the movie are going to be kind of, I don't know, grandized or something. They're made to be more
dramatized, and
more
stuff
dramatic
like
than what they probably were. Essentially, and you mentioned it earlier. Essentially, what I got from the overall plot was not necessarily that Rick Wershey, in a desperate time, did bad things. It was more. It did seem like it more focused on. He worked with the FBI. And it essentially is their fault that he got involved in the drug selling, because I mean, it kind of was, because I don't think he realized how much money it was worth until they hand him a package that's it's like
$4,000 worth of coke.
And that's when it suddenly hit him. It was like, holy cow, makes a lot of money.
It was more of his human greed. getting the better of him in the movie. Like
he saw a way out, and he figured the best way to do it was to pursue this.
And you never, when you start making money like that, when you start profiting like crazy, you don't really know when to stop. That's just human greed. So it's more of a two-part thing. One, showing the fault of the justice system and the federal investigation system, because they were able to exploit a young man and
didn't cause much noise.
Basically keep him keep their bases covered and not have to take responsibility for what they did.
Yeah, because by the time you get to the end of the film, which honestly at the time I didn't realize was the end of the movie, he has to go to court because he's actually mentioned by name of being one of the reasons why all of the drug cartel kind of got took down.
Yeah.
It's not really a cartel because they're not Colombian, but, you know. They mention him by name, and the FBI like makes all these promises that they'll keep him out of jail and stuff, and then he ends up going to jail anyway.
Because they can't like put anything on paper, and if they can't put anything on paper, there's no paper trail.
Yeah.
So if the dad goes to the news and says anything, he has no definable proof. All he has is word of mouth.
Yeah, all he can do is say, "Well, yeah, this happened," because they actually have a scene like that, which they advertised in the trailer. But whenever it actually happened, it wasn't as impactful. Is that them sitting in front of the lawyer, and the lawyer's telling them like, "I don't have any way to like help protect you," and Matthew McConaughey's character is like, "But he was, it's not his fault. It's the FBI's fault." And the lawyer asked him, "Was like, do you really think we're gonna be able to say that a 14-year-old kid was made to work for the FBI to sell drugs?" And then Matthew McConaughey just kind of sits there and he goes, "Well, he did." And granted, yeah, he did, but it would be hard for you to just say that and the FBI not have something on paper that said, yeah, they did this. Because you notice in the movie, at no point is there like an official process done. Every time Rick is sent out by the FBI to go sell something, it's never, here's a wire, here's a badge, here's like this or anything. They didn't really make him an informant. They just came and picked him up in their car and sent him on his way. And that was it. There was no proper process involved, which I get that part, but then you had to still look at it as this kid was still willing to go to a level you shouldn't.
Well, the reason he did that in the first place wasn't for the money. It was because the FBI were threatening to arrest his dad.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was making silencers for weapons. And so he did it to keep his dad from going to jail.
Which could have worked had he,
not gotten greedy.
Yeah, it was like, he could have just stopped afterwards, but he chose to pursue it. The whole thing at the end of the movie, when they do the whole thing where it's like they tell you like what's happened since then, since he's been put in prison, because it ends after he gets put in prison. Shows you, I couldn't tell, was he in solitary or was that just normal prison?
That was normal prison.
I couldn't tell. I was like, I don't understand like why. I guess they were just keeping him separate so they wouldn't get killed. Was all it was, because they
yeah,
say,
sure.
they
let's
say
go
that.
with let's go
that's
with
what
kill.
they say. They say that they only let him out in the yard and in the area to eat by himself for his own protection. So I assumed it was to keep any gang members that might have been in that prison from trying to kill him. That's what I could assume. But it tells you like at the end of the movie, after like one final was supposed to be like a big emotional shot, is it's been nearly
30 years. 30 years of incarceration.
In 2017 he was released.
And all of the corrupt police officers and gang members and political officials that he had helped get arrested had already been released long before he did.
Yeah. So
he was the longest confined convict in the state of Michigan for a nonviolent crime.
Yeah. So then they finally let him out in 2017, and like they play a little clip of I guess what he said on the day he was released, about how happy he was to be finally out. He was able to go
Get away from the surge protector.
He was able to go see his family. which is great. And like the entire time it tells you like he had a kid with the girl that he was with when he was younger. They have a child, and like it tells you like, oh, his daughter is grown up now and has kids of her own, and now they're like a big happy family. That's great. I mean, I assume he's turned his life around, obviously, after being incarcerated for so long. I assume he's probably a changed man at this point. I doubt he's out selling drugs now. He might be. Who knows?
He's probably selling AKs with silencers attached to him.
Make his dad proud.
Yeah.
Make Matthew McConaughey proud.
He's just looking down from heaven. It's like, Dad, is that you? It's like, all right.
You know what?
Anyway.
This entire movie passed. Matthew McConaughey never said all right.
No, but he did do the weird eyebrow scrunch thing he does in his movies.
That. He did do where he's like, he makes that weird like far off look, and he's like,
yeah.
Like that, you can't see it, but everyone knows. If you imitated that look while listening to it, you know. It was. I would have to probably agree with IMDb's rating. I'd probably give it probably a 6 out of 10.
Well, before we get to,
I'm just saying. Like,
before we get to the rating, let's discuss what we liked and what we disliked about the movie.
Go ahead, then.
So I'll go ahead and say what I like about the movie is that it was for the most part grounded in reality. There were no super long dramatic speeches that happen in films and stuff like that. It was for the most part like realistic dialogue that goes on between people.
The conversation seemed real.
Yeah,
it
wasn't
didn't seem like they were written on a piece of paper and they acted it. It sounded like
it sounded like actual conversation, like two people have. It wasn't overly dramatic. Cinematography was very well shot.
They had some very beautiful shots in there.
Very good shots. For the most part, they knew what they were talking about with guns. I don't know if that is something everyone cares about, but for the most part, they knew what they were talking about. And it really goes with stories I hear about from people that lived in areas like that, where they were like, "Oh yeah, I carried a gun with me all the time." I was like, "Why?" But after seeing it, I was like, "Oh, well, you kind of had to carry a gun with you all the time."
I think that definitely opened a window to, like you said, it seemed grounded in reality. It seemed like stories that my parents told, which granted we're in the South, not Detroit. But like similar, like my parents told similar stories of them growing up in the 80s. It was a very similar time no matter where you were. So I liked the realism behind that.
I think well, before I get to my dislikes, let's hear your likes.
Oh, what did I like about the film?
Yeah.
I had a lot of, like what you said, I agree a lot of, I liked the grounded in reality. I like the fact that it's still a drama. So obviously they're going to play up certain events, but I could still see it. I could still see a lot of the things that happened. Like, I could picture it actually happening based on stories I've heard from people in real life, based on, like, I like a lot of crime stories and stuff anyway, so, like, stuff that I've seen and heard. I liked that aspect of it. Except for the scene where they go to get the daughter from the drug house. For some reason, it just seemed weird. It was an odd shot. I don't know why. But that I liked the acting. I felt like all the actors did a really good job. The only characters that seemed a little, I don't know, like kind of forced or just didn't feel natural were like the FBI agents and stuff. They felt stiff.
I was thinking more of the little brother for the baby mama.
Oh,
yeah, he was the only character that didn't feel real.
I mean, yeah, that one seemed a bit much, but I understood why it was for comic relief.
Yeah,
and that was fine.
In a super serious movie, you needed the comic relief
and
character.
That was fine. I was okay with that, but like, I did feel like nearly all the acting seemed really well done. All the characters, obviously, like, they were portrayed realistic. That, like, these were people that it was like, I've met people that are either similar to them, like have similar personalities, or they didn't feel like they were being acted out. They didn't feel like grandiose. They felt like down to earth people.
Okay, so what didn't you like about the movie?
What didn't I like? I didn't see and I don't want to. Now it's not that the movie was perfect or that I liked it. It's just that I don't think there was a lot to it that you could dislike. As far as I didn't necessarily like the premise of trying to make you feel bad for White Boy Rick, because I get it. Like, yeah, he's down on his luck. His family lives very poor. I assume they're close to the poverty line. They don't have much, and that's sad. It's a sympathetic story. Obviously, anyone feels for them. But ignoring the fact that he did do crimes, no matter how old he is, he was fully capable of making the better decision. He could have said, you know what, Dad, let's pursue that dream of opening a VCR store. Because his dad, while, was selling guns, doing illegal stuff, was working towards eventually having a legit business. And had they focused on that, they could have probably reached it. So I guess, like, the idea that while all of this did happen, the portrayal that this family was just in a rough spot and they had no other choice, I believe there is always a choice. So I didn't necessarily like that driven part of the narrative, because no matter how much you say, it's a true story, this is what happened, well, yeah, this is what happened, but not word for word of how you're portraying it. So I guess it would be more of just a dislike of docudramas as a whole, because a lot of times it's like, I don't know if I'm getting really the full story. I feel like you're telling...
It feels like a one-sided dialogue.
You are definitely driving a narrative saying that, look, they were in a rough spot, this was the only way out.
That everyone took advantage of Rick.
And while that may have seemed like it from Rick's point of view, which I'm sure this is where this story came from, was from Rick's point of view, it still isn't necessarily... it's not the only point of view, and while yes, it does point out things there are problems in both our federal government and on the streets of towns and cities everywhere, it doesn't excuse the fact that bad things are still bad things.
Mm-hmm.
So
evil is still evil.
Yeah, what did you not like?
Well, this might just be me. It's I guess from another viewer they might get it, especially if they hear this podcast first. But I feel like the pacing was really slow in the beginning, and it was kind of hard to follow until about maybe 30 minutes into the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, they just threw characters at me that I didn't know who they should be or why I should care about them. Like, the FBI agents just kind of showed up, and I didn't know they were FBI agents until they made him get in the car. I was like, oh, they're FBI agents. Okay. Okay, I get this now.
I mean, I knew that. I didn't know they were FBI agents, but I figured they were at least police when it has a shot of them watching him from afar.
I knew that they were like somebody watching them. I assumed it was the mother coming to like take her kids back or something like that.
That would be an interesting twist.
Yeah, that would have. But I was just like, why are you just creeping, Mom? If you want your kids, just go get them. Well, no, don't go get them. They're toting guns.
Yeah, for real. And they already, they prove multiple times in the movie that most people shoot first.
Also, they bought 2 AKs for $150. And... I could almost bet that every liberal watching the movie just kind of
see, just to let you know, it's not that easy.
No, it's not.
It's not. It may have been maybe in the 80s. It certainly isn't now.
Yeah.
I've bought weapons. It's not that easy.
You have a spear.
I'm talking about guns, though.
Yeah, but I was thinking he's bought weapons. Wait, he has like a katana. He has like a pseudo machete. He has a spear. Why do you ever need a spear?
Why wouldn't you?
Because we're not Spartans. Because we're not spear fighters. We evolved past that. We invented gunpowder. You don't need a spear.
Yeah, but you gotta admit it'd be pretty scary.
Yeah. But if a robber comes into your home and you're just like, On God, you fool! Before you can finish that sentence, he has shot you.
That's if he's armed. Who knows?
Well, I don't want to add fuel to the fire and just be like, it's so easy to get a gun.
In the liberal argument, he won't be he'll be unarmed, and so will I, and we'll just kind of stare at each other, and I'll politely ask him to leave.
No, because in the liberal argument, the gun will just appear in his hand and force him to commit the crime. But anyway, let's get off of that topic. Anyway, I just didn't like the pacing.
I have another thing to add to my dislikes. I didn't like that there were some scenes in the movie that felt they didn't belong. Such as there's a scene where it's all the younger kids and stuff. And I say younger, it's like Rick's age group, and they go out and they shoot a bunch of rats.
Yeah.
I didn't get the point of that scene.
Maybe just to show that, like, everyone's carrying a gun.
I don't know. Like, it didn't make sense to me story-wise. It felt like it was just filler. Like, they were like, well, we need something.
Yeah.
Let's make them shoot a bunch of mice. Like, those poor rats. I felt bad for the rats. They're just sitting there munching on something, and they all open fire.
Hello, humans. What are you? Oh, God!
I guess it was just to paint them all out like, look, they're just a bunch of stupid kids or something. I don't know. Like, especially because it went from focusing on White Boy Rick as a child and having all these friends and stuff to suddenly he's got the leader of the gang looking down on him like he might be a potential threat to, and all of this. So it was a weird mixture. Like it seemed like they changed the theme so much. It went from White Boy Rick as innocent young kid to White Boy Rick drug kingpin. Like, it was like, whoa, like, you're shoving that in my face quick.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, it was because it goes from like 84 to 88 in a very short time span.
I think another one of my dislikes, and it may counteract my whole everything felt real thing, but Rick was kind of boring
as a character.
Character, he was pretty stale.
I'm sorry, Rick Wershey, if you ever hear this for some reason, but the guy that played you portrayed you as a very boring human being.
I
was more interested in the dad. The dad seemed interesting to me.
Yeah. But then again, Matthew McConaughey is just he's a really good actor. Guy. But it just, I don't know, he felt kind of stale at times. And then at times he felt really stale. He was just
I didn't
stale.
There's so many scenes in the movie where White Boy Rick is just kind of like staring at the world around him, and he's just like, oh.
Like, there are times you have to question whether that actor didn't just like black out in that scene and then just like snap to it and then remembered he was doing a line.
So there's scenes when they go to like the casino and he's just kind of staring off into space, like watching everyone, and I'm like, okay, I'm a people watcher too, but I don't look like that while doing it. I'm not like, what's that guy doing? It was odd. And also when he goes and he sleeps with the chick, the drug leader's chick, he goes and sleeps with her. That whole scene was awkward.
That was very awkward
because he's staring out the window, and I don't know if like he was like, all I can think of is like, I feel like when they sat down and Rick Wershey was telling them this story and he got to this bit, he made sure to make himself sound so smooth because it's almost like what a 15-year-old kid would tell you he looked like on his first night of getting laid. He was like, yeah, I stared out the window, said a good one-liner, then turned to her and she said, well, why don't you come over here? And instead of coming over there, I sat across from her to make her come get to me. And it's like, it's so awkward.
It was pretty awkward. It's almost like if any of y'all have seen Funhouse, it's Lawrence Sontag describing like a 15-year-old guy thinking all the teachers wanna bang him and just be like, yeah, they just can't keep their hands off me. And then like when the situation actually arises, the 15-year-old will be like, ah!
It is like there were a lot of scenes like that where it was just kind of awkward to be watching, and it was weird. Okay, so this is not like a racial thing, Me and my fiance, when we went,
As soon as he says this is not a racial thing, prepare for it to be a racial
no,
thing.
so me and my fiance went, and we did notice we were like the only white people there, which wasn't a bad thing. I'm just saying that it was odd because it felt like...
Are you telling me that that night you were white boy doing?
Yeah. It felt like in that moment, though, when we're watching that movie and it has scenes like that, I could almost feel all the black people, like, watching us to see our reaction to it.
If you were like the theater I was in, where it's just like, there's like, you could cut the tension with a knife because the old people who, like, are against that are just like...
It was like they were like watching us to see, like, are you okay with this? You like, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, bro, it's a sex scene. I'm not gonna complain. I'm not gonna gripe about it.
I think we spent more time talking about how much we didn't like the movie than we did.
Again, it wasn't a terrible movie. Not my top 5, but not a bad movie. I think the things that made it even remotely good is Matthew McConaughey, just because he's in it. He's a very well seasoned actor. He's very good. He knows how to portray a character.
Well, I mean, he never showers. He's got quite a couple seasonings on him. Anyway,
I mean, he swims in his pool all the time. Which do you think he uses like if he's a naturalist? Obviously, he probably doesn't use chlorine in his pool. His pool can't be very clean.
No.
How do you think he also got to think? It?
I think they shower. They just don't use like products.
No, they don't use soap. Stuff. They just use water.
So it would.
So that's why he's always oily looking.
It would kind of be like making a sandwich, but not putting any condiments in it. Like. You're gonna get sustenance, but you're not gonna like it.
You're not. It's not as good as it could have been.
It's like just putting 2 pieces of bread and it's to be here. Enjoy.
All right, Dale.
We got to give our official verdict.
Yeah. So, what would you say is your rating for this?
Well, it wasn't as bad as Breaking In. So I think I'm gonna give it maybe a 6.5.
6.5
out of 10.
You gave it more than I would.
Oh yeah.
I was just gonna say I'd give it. I agree with.
It's got better. It's got a better score because I like the music and the cinematography. It was very very well shot. This was very good production.
That's where all the money went.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All the money went to the cinematography. Like,
or renting out venues like bowling alleys and casino spots
and getting Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey.
That's where all
had
their
to
money
be half
went.
the budget.
Like they put all the money in like 3 main things, and then they were like, "All right, get all these other people so we can have something. We gotta have a movie. Who we got? Matthew McConaughey. Well, he can't play white boy." Which, by the way, I almost made the joke out loud because you're only like 15 minutes into the film, and the leader of the gang calls Rick, white boy Rick, and I was like, "We're done. That's it. That's the movie." He said
the name of the movie. We can leave.
We can leave. He did it. Awesome.
It's like the rules of the vampire. Whenever you welcome them into your home, the moment you say you're welcome, they can come in.
Yeah. And
movies, whenever they say the title of the movie, you are legally allowed to leave.
And honestly, I think just adding this in at the end is that I think that was one of the things I disliked about the movie, because it's mentioned one time. They never call him white boy Rick ever again. They only call him that one time.
No, they still call him white boy Rick.
No,
that's his name.
They just call him Ricky.
So the people close to him call him Ricky, but people know him as white boy Rick.
Like everyone called him Ricky except for the drug leader at the very beginning, and then like the FBI agents later say it like one time. It's like,
maybe I don't know.
It's like, why? Why was that your solidifying title? It's like white boy Rick.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Halfway through the movie, the only thing I was thinking about was farming on Dragon Ball Legends and stuff like that. Because when I went and watched the movie, they were doing the one of the events where you get like double Zenny or double EXP.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I really gotta get on that. Oh wait, I'm watching a movie. I gotta pay attention.
So my final verdict would be a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10?
6 out of 10 because the acting was very good. Unlike you, the cinematography was really good. I would say it was good overall. There were just sections where the actors seemed kind of like,
and there were lulls in the movie where it was
there were a lot of scenes that I felt like they didn't add anything to the story, so why were they included?
Yeah, like the whole grandpa making pancakes and nobody liking pancakes.
Yeah, like, what was the point? You know what that scene did for me? Made me feel bad for Grandpa.
Made me hungry for pancakes.
That too. But I just felt bad for Grandpa. I was like, someone eat his daggum pancakes!
I'm gonna be real with you. There have been times where I've had pancakes, but I was too lazy to, like, put syrup on them. So I just ate pancakes
That's
without
sad.
syrup.
That's just depressing.
I ate them a la carte.
We can't end on a depressing note like that.
Let's think. Did that
What
break
does that mean? A la carte? That just means that it's your choice. You get to choose. Like,
Yeah, and I chose not to eat them with maple syrup. I'll end on a positive note. I one time broke a lady at IHOP. She was serving the they were doing unlimited pancakes, and they had 6 different syrups. They had like 2 special syrups.
yeah.
And they would give you like 2 pancakes per stack. And I ordered the first plate of pancakes, and then I'm like, I'll have another. And she's like, okay, we'll go for seconds. That's cool. She brings the pancakes, and I finish them. I'm like, I'll have another. She's like, okay. And she goes, and I'm like, I'll have another. And like, this is like, she's like, people usually don't get up to 4 plates. I'm like, how many syrups are there?
25, sir.
And she did not know that I was not eating pancakes because I was legitimately that hungry, but I wanted to try all 6 syrups.
You could have just cut the pancakes in like 4s and then
But
like
it's unlimited pancakes.
I can barely eat 1 plate full of pancakes.
Well, you know what? You are weak. You are a weak
Now my
man.
stomach is shrunk. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't have hardly any room.
I hated myself after that because you can imagine I was clogged.
Alright, we're gonna stop talking about pancakes.
What?
We're supposed to be talking about White Boy Rick.
Anyway, that was the final verdict. And I ate like 6 plates of pancakes. I ate 12 pancakes.
Man, Rick's grandpa would have loved you.
Oh my god. Yeah, because I wouldn't have gotten his Imperial stolen.
For real.
Because who just leaves their keys in the car? Like, even back then, who just left their keys in the car?
Lots of people.
That's stupid. What's playing? What is... Dylan, what is going on?
Is that you?
No! What?
What were you?
We're ending on that note. The NSA hacked my phone. Bye. Thank you for joining us. Go watch White Boy Rick, or don't. It's up to you. Don't make choices because that's the ultimate message of the movie.
What,
Don't fall into peer pressure. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.